everyone, welcome to the Adolescent Mind, where we unpack the challenges facing young people today and what we can do about them. I'm Allie, your host, and today we're talking about something that's becoming harder and harder to ignore: addiction in adolescence. Whether it's vaping, substance use, or that constant dopamine trip from smartphones, addiction in its many forms is touching more families than ever. But here's the good news: we can prevent it. Not perfectly, not always, but we can interrupt the spiral before it starts. Let's break it down. First of all, what is addiction in adolescence? Addiction in adolescence can take many forms. We're talking about substances like alcohol, nicotine, cannabis, and other drugs. But we also need to talk about the behavioral addictions, things like gaming, social media, and the iPhone. Adolescents are particularly vulnerable to addiction because their brains are still developing. This makes it harder for teens to regulate their behaviors, especially when the reward system in the brain is lighting up like a slot machine every time someone likes their TikTok. It is important for people to understand that addiction is not always substance use. It can be things such as gaming, being on your phone, and even things like shopping. There is always a lot of stigma around behavioral addictions because people may not think that they're actually real, when in fact they are. Now let's talk about some of the warning signs that we see in adolescents. Adolescents that are experiencing addiction can have a sudden drop in grades, loss of interest, isolation from family or friends, increased secrecy, changes in sleep or appetite. Another big warning sign is withdrawal symptoms. This can be things such as anxiety, shaking, and headaches. People can experience withdrawal symptoms both emotionally and physically, and this will happen when a substance is taken away. The question lies, why are teens so vulnerable to addiction? Well, as I said before, teens' brains are constantly developing and growing. Their brains are wired to explore and also wired to take risks. There are other factors that also increase the risk of addiction in adolescence. Mental health challenges like anxiety or depression, family conflict or trauma, social isolation or peer pressure, or unstructured time and easy access to substances. And to be fair, whenever I feel overwhelmed, lonely, or invisible, I always go on my phone. Because of the new technology advancement, almost everyone around us has access to a smartphone. And smartphone addiction is really easy. It's easy to constantly look at your phone for likes. It's easy to constantly look at your phone for entertainment. And it's not only adolescents that struggle with this addiction. It's just that they are more at risk. If everyone around you has access to a phone and is constantly looking at videos and pictures, you are more susceptible to creating an addiction. A myth that I hear a lot lately is, if my child has a phone addiction, I should just take their phone away. But that's not actually helping that addiction. Kids do need their phones for things such as school, learning, and interacting with friends. But it is important to maintain a healthy relationship with technology. You can set boundaries or set a screen time. That way, your child or adolescent has access to a cell phone regularly, but is also using it in a healthy way. Although this addiction is constantly growing, there are other ways to prevent it, and it is important to start this early. Prevention starts with healthy support from their parents. Having a healthy relationship with a parent can decrease the likelihood of developing a mental illness, which therefore decreases the likelihood of creating an iPhone addiction. Teens also should be learning about coping skills. When a teen needs an escape, they usually go on their phone. But instead, they should be learning to cope in a healthy way. This isn't their fault, though. Our education system does not teach about coping strategies. This is why I believe it is so important to spread awareness on addiction and mental health. Some ways that teens can cope in healthy ways are things like journaling, grounding yourself, meditation, and setting some alone time for yourself in the day. Again, it is so easy to go on your phone in your free time, but by learning these coping skills, we can only hope that teens will be able to use these, especially when they're feeling anxious or depressed. In Social Work 4400, we learned about some of the levels of care. If coping strategies, connection, and boundaries aren't working, and an addiction has gotten to its lowest point, there are ways to get professional help. We learned about outpatient therapy, which is just a weekly session with a therapist. This is great for mild concerns. We also learned about intensive outpatient program, or IOP. This is usually 3 to 4 sessions per week. This can also include things like group therapy, individual therapy, and family therapy. There is also partial hospitalization program. This is a day program that runs 5 days a week. People with an addiction will have constant support and access to psychiatric care. Residential treatment, which is 24-hour care in a supportive facility. This is for more severe cases, especially when a withdrawal is dangerous. And last but not least, inpatient hospitalization. This is 24-hour support in a hospital. This is also for very severe cases. The last thing we're going to talk about today is community and school involvement. Teens and adolescents are at school for 5 days a week, 6 hours a day. And as for communities, there's after-school programs, sports, and other programs such as faith communities. Teachers often notice red flags. These can be mood changes, peer shifts, or declining performance. It is important for teachers to understand the importance of these red flags and to notice when they're happening, and also to provide support for adolescents. In school, adolescents will learn lots of social skills, emotional regulation, conflict resolution, and media literacy. But we can't expect teens to learn this all on their own. That is why there's counselors in schools, social workers in schools, and even a teacher can be a mentor. If a teen needs help, it's important for them to know that they have access to these. Outside of school, though, on a community level, there can also be more support systems. That is why, as a community, it is important for them to support accessible mental health resources in schools. It is also important for them to offer safe, substance-free spaces for teens to hang out, and mentors, such as coaches and leaders, to recognize warning signs. It is important to empower our teens instead of destroying them. We want to make them feel like they are good enough. That is why these support systems are so important. Because with these support systems, the less likely that a teen will develop an addiction. If you or someone you know is struggling with an addiction, there are resources. The first resource I will mention is teenline.org. It is a teen-to-teen support hotline that can assist other teens dealing with issues like addiction. Another resource is Substance Abuse and Mental Health Services Administration. Their national hotline is 1-800-662-HELP. It is free, confidential, and available 24/7. The last resource I will provide is drugfree.org. It provides education on addiction and provides coping strategies for substance use. Addiction doesn't mean a teen is bad. It means that they're human and they're struggling. But with the support, the right relationships, and the tools, recovery is possible. We can build resilience, offer safe spaces, and walk alongside them through whatever they're facing. Thank you for joining me on the Adolescent Mind. Stay grounded, stay present, and we'll see you next time.